Right, so what you're going to do is you're going to draw a bottle in local color. And so the first thing is to sketch out the bottle. I have the bottle over there, it's sitting there, so the actual physical bottle is in front of me. And the first thing is I look at the axes, and I've placed the bottle in an interesting foreshortened view. Foreshortened means that we've seen it not exactly from a side or front view, but at an angled view. And I sketch in all my lines. I can use a ruler just to check that I'm getting things right. And the bottle will get slightly narrower as it recedes away from me. So let's just get that in there. Now the beauty of this is a green bottle, and the beauty of glass is that it has a beautiful reflective surface. Notice that each of these curves would be equal. And what I'm going to look at the same time is the values. In other words, where are the shadows on this bottle? And as I'm working from general to specific, so I'm getting more and more details as I break it down. That can go on. The longer I spend on it, obviously the more realistic it'll become. Okay, so then we have one set of shadows. It's always hard to see the shadows on glass, and often it's not just one shadow or a blended shadow in glass. Normally the values change quite quickly, or sharply, as we could say. There we have make some suggestions of letterings as well. Just adds to the realism. Right, so now we've basically got some of the values. I'm using a very soft pencil, so I'm able to smudge with my finger just to blend everything. I can then break in some lights. The lights are coming through, and this is the difference about glass, is those values won't blend, they will be quite sharp in their changes. Right. And now I can start adding some color, since the whole point of this exercise is about color. And so where I've added my shadows, that's color plus black, and that'll make a hue, tone, sorry. And the tone is where the shadows are, where the light's not really hitting. Add some details. And there's the start of our bottle. Well, this is green, but I still got to capture the tints, which is where the light is hitting. As it pushes away from you in space, it gets darker, as well as where the shadows are. So there we are. up the top of the bottle. Once again, I add in more detail, especially into the shadows. You can notice it's built up of lots of half ellipses. And over here we can see through the glass, and this area is going to be quite a dark green. You'll notice I'm using one green plus a pencil for my blacks. I prefer using a pencil and a black pencil crayon because I can use different ranges of pencils, soft to hard pencils, to get the effect. So here I'm going to use like an A to B to capture this inside part of this. It used to be a lead capping on the bottle, but I presume it's not lead anymore. Oopsie. A bit of an accident, the pencil broke. Pushing a bit of a mark onto the paper. Okay, and I'm going to, because we're using such soft pencils, I'm going to sharpen up this edge, the ruler. See where that lead broke and I hit the page, I couldn't get rid of it. It happened, just coincidentally happened to be in the light area, which is just, it falls sometimes. And then you can see we have a bit of a cap. Get rid of some of the fuzziness. We have the cap of the bottle, and we're able now to move down into the neck. And once again, we're going to focus on capturing the volume of the bottle. Now, the bottle is round, and at the same time capture the idea that the bottle is transparent at this point, and hence see-through. Right. Once again, I'm running our shadow down wildly, which means I need to come back. So the idea is it's quite a simple principle. What's further away is darker, and what's closer is lighter, and what's in shadow is a tone, and where light it's a tint. Difficulty with glass is that the tones don't blend smoothly as in a non-reflective object. The tones are much more sharper delineated. Okay, now what's happening today? Okay. So I'm just going to sharpen this so quickly. I prefer using a knife to sharpen pencil crayons rather than a rotating sharpener. And then I'm building down into the next part, trying to get a feeling of that light striking the bottle and back into a shadowy part. Yeah, that I'm going to bring out a little more just now. I'm going to run that right through that green so that you get the idea that this is reflective at this point. did a patch up where the pencil snapped. It's a little bit too white there. Yeah, and that can go down. Now I'm going to start pushing in the green as much as possible until we get to the label, which is over here. It's nice to include the label because the label is another way of giving the volume to the glass. The shape is what's important in the label. Because it shows the curvature of the glass. And obviously the shading can be slightly different when we hit the label, which is over there and on the side. Alright, the glass is starting to develop. So now I want to just very lightly put in some shadow here, which some green hue in here, which I'm going to need to go back to highlight for where the light hits. It's quite a nice way of using a razor. Make sure the razor is clean, and then just break in this light. It really just all comes together once you start breaking on the light like this. And you can see the bottle's starting to work. It's starting to come into 3D. Okay, so the biggest thing is understanding how the light falls on your object. So that was flat, and as I get further away, I'm going to make it slightly darker and darker. I'm not scared to use a ruler to make things 90 degrees, although it can make a drawing look really mechanical and ugly, so it's not always advisable, but I think when one's starting out as drawing, it can give one confidence, and that's why I've used that as part of my demonstration here. So that's some light just hitting in a streak over there. Okay, and I'm looking at the bottle all the time, trying to find equivalents for the way that the light strikes on the bottle. Just soften that a bit. Right, and now we can get into the label. One mustn't be fooled that the label is separate from the rest of the bottle. The shading will continue, even though this is a white label. It's going to continue into the label. And this label has a lot of black, but I'm not going to make it just flat black. I'm going to make the black lighter on pieces that are closer, and further away on pieces that are darker. And as I say, once again, I want to straighten this up. So here, the black is getting me a bit lighter, and it's going to bend back on the edge, and I'm going to make it much darker at the edge. Notice I'm drawing up to the line, 90 degrees, and I'm just going to put it over. Edging, one's got to be careful of lines. Lines can kill the drawing. So we just want that. The hues must be equal at all points across the label and the glass. And that's the hues of the shadows and the way that it bends away. Okay. And now we want to put some darker greens here as we head back to the glass again. This is where our glass has got an edge. Get rid of this line before we put the values over there. first idea is to get the glass in. You see, the glass is going to change here. Here we have a whole lot of dots is coming in there. And so we're working from general to specific. And so as we go from general, you see I'm lightening up that area. Some of the smudging made it into tones there, which we don't really want. And our bottle is starting to look quite good. There's a bottle. And here we've got some writing. The main thing is to get the writing that occurs with the bottle. And that the curvature is equal to this curvature here. Okay, now I've jumped away from where I was. Sometimes it's quite good just to vary your concentration. Okay, this bit of labeling is quite black. So once again, I'm going to let it go lighter as it comes towards me in the glass, and darker as it bends away. And suggest some lettering as well. This area here got a little bit dark. Lighten it and maybe put a reflection across. And then this part here is going to be dark again, because that is part of the shadow, and the shadow value must be consistent all the way across. And I just want to make a clear division between the label and the bottle, the glass. This point, there we go. It's going to be down here again. And so this will carry on right down to the end. Okay, I particularly turn the label away, just so that the label isn't showing. The avatars. What this bottle is really. And so here we go, and let's blend that in a bit. See, it's looking a bit flat, and just remember curved object, since we are now on a non-transparent object. And although it is slightly reflective, so it does have the values of glass, and it's plastic. It will have. Now we can pick up some of our brighter spots, and any light source that is shining on the glass we pick up. And then we have Leonardo's concept that in a very dark hue is always a lighter hue to give it the volume. So that would be these lighter areas on the edges. And now we're ready to tackle the base. The base is flat and it's quite dark because it's a thick glass at the bottom. This is so that it doesn't break. This is what supports the strand. It's strength to the glass is right here at the base. So I'm just going to work that up. All this shadiness making me sweat. Now we want to capture this part here. As I said, it's quite dark, its base is flat. Also, we can flat hatch it. Oh, again. So I've attached it using the smudging technique. Could use a toucan, which is like an earbud. But the good old finger does well. And as I said, now from now on we could just keep building up and adding more and more detail. Be careful of using outlines. There should be no outlines. The outlines tend to flatten a tonal drawing, so you really don't want outlines in your drawing. Maybe just pick up the light on that one. How the light blends into the bottle. Let's see if we've got some things that we want to bring in here. This part of the glass is very dark. So the whole time I'm looking at the bottle and drawing what I can see, and I'm trying to interpret what I see onto this two-dimensional surface, and I'm interpreting it by simplifying, by trying to find equivalence to what you see. And that's what makes art so interesting. All the time you've got to try and find these equivalents and evaluate what you're doing and saying, well, does that work? You know, have I done it right? Is it perfect? Does it represent my understanding of what I see? Because the three-dimensional object is always moving in space as you work around it. There we have it. In my 8B, I want to really get that a little bit more darker. 8B that snapped earlier. I'm going to push that even darker in this area, because this is where the most thickest glass is, and plus we've seen the glass on the far edge, so it's triple thick here. Right, have it clean up. Now what I haven't done is I haven't drawn a cast shadow, and that would be a shadow that is projected from the bottle onto a surface, and that makes it look as if the bottle isn't floating as such. And obviously, because it's a green bottle, I've used its local color, which is green, and even in the reflection there will be some green reflected across into the cast shadow. And obviously less green where the label is, but there could still be some there, and that's called radiosity or refraction. And the shadow, obviously the hue could be darkened to represent how bright the light is that's shining on it. And some suggestions of the bottle's shape could be brought into this. Right, and there we have the bottle. So it's a local color drawing of a bottle, and it's in space. Okay, thank you.